It's that guy pretty much lives and breathes for the chance to make controversial statements on his podcast titled The Joe Rogan Experience. Recently, Rogan took to the podcast waves and gave his thoughts on the world's current state of affairs. So stay tuned and don't go away, because Joe Rogan shares a screenshot of a fake CNN headline on the Russia-Ukraine conflict and says, "I would say we're about 14 hours from the arrival of the aliens." First up, are aliens about to make contact? You're about to find out. Recently, podcaster and UFC commentator Joe Rogan used a fake CNN headline to highlight just how chaotic things have been in the world. Specifically, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict has led to a prolonged period of chaos, unrest, and death in Ukraine. Nations around the world have expressed their outrage at Russian President Vladimir Putin and have condemned his actions. Putin began an invasion of Russia's neighboring country a few weeks ago, and there are mounting fears that things could escalate further, and the battle could spill over into other parts of the European continent. Polish civilians, for example, are already preparing themselves against Russian aggression and are arming themselves with AK-47s and learning how to shoot. Joe Rogan has been in the headlines quite a bit lately, and as he often does, he thinks out loud on social media and shares his opinions on just about anything and everything. One of the things he said was, "If I had to guess the plot of this movie we're living through, I would say we're about 14 hours from the arrival of the aliens." Rogan recently offered a string of apologies due to the remarks he made in the past as a podcaster. Thousands of people feel that Spotify should remove Rogan from their platform altogether. Next up, why hasn't Rogan been removed from the Spotify platform? Let's take a look. Despite scores of people calling for Rogan's removal from Spotify, it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon, and there are two primary reasons for this. One, Rogan does have legions of fans and supporters who are more than willing to back him up. And two, there's this thing called the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. The First Amendment is a wonderful thing. It outlines the inalienable rights and freedoms of Americans to freely express themselves and say what's on their mind without having to fear any sort of reprisals. Hate speech, however, which calls for harm or violence against a particular group of people or a person, is illegal and prosecutable. The First Amendment protects anything that Rogan says, no matter how ridiculous, unpopular, or offensive it may be. Spotify, along with Rogan's supporters, stands firm in their belief that the First Amendment ought to protect Rogan and Spotify as a whole. Spotify and Rogan fans argue that Joe is free to say what he wants on his podcast, providing of course that his speech doesn't constitute hate speech, which it never has, and if listeners don't like it, they're free to change the channel. Rogan does have one of the most popular podcasts in the world, and many believe that his show's popularity will only continue to rise so long as he stays with Spotify. Up next, what are some examples of Rogan's most ridiculous podcast segments? Let's find out. Within days of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Rogan was brutally mocked online after he shared a fake CNN report claiming that Steven Seagal joined the Russians in their invasion of Ukraine. This came right around the same time that Ukrainian President Zelensky urged citizens to make Molotov cocktails and hurl them at the Russian army. The screenshot Rogan shared to social media shows Seagal, a 69-year-old movie star, holding a machine gun while wearing sunglasses and combat fatigues. The screenshot was captioned with the words, "Intelligence agencies around the world have spotted American actor Steven Seagal among Russian special forces positioned around the outskirts of Gostomel airfield near Kiev, captured by Russian airborne troops." It was then that he made his bizarre alien comment. Social media users jumped all over Rogan and called him out, saying the image was a scene from Seagal's 2016 thriller movie, Sniper. Rogan also found himself in hot water after doing a podcast with Dr. Robert Malone, a vaccine scientist who spread misinformation about the COVID vaccine and compared the US health system to Nazi Germany. Although such comments don't constitute hate speech, one could certainly argue that the comments are at the very least irresponsible and at most dangerous. Stay tuned and don't go away, because we're going to dive deeper into the latest Joe Rogan news. Next up, why is Rogan picking a fight with Silicon Valley tech workers? Let's have a look. Rogan recently slammed employees of tech firms in California's Bay Area as woke activists on his podcast and labeled employees for companies such as Google as mentally ill, arguing that they are lunatics who are running the asylum to a certain extent. Rogan's comments came after he interviewed veteran Silicon Valley worker Antonio Garcia Martinez. Women in the Valley are full of Martinez even compared a former Indian co-worker to a bored auto rickshaw driver from Delhi. Rogan asked Martinez what it was like working for two of the biggest tech giants in the world. But before Martinez could answer the question, Rogan interjected and told Martinez what a friend of his had to say about her experience working in a management capacity at Google. Rogan said, "And the way she described it to me, she's like, it is utter madness. And the lunatics are running the asylum to a certain extent." Martinez responded by saying that the firm's employees, these people, are partly to blame, due to them encouraging staffers to bring the real self to work. According to Martinez, big tech firms such as Facebook are kind of like a cult, where employees are brought to a campus lifestyle where they do your laundry for you and feed you. Martinez added, "Facebook was a cult and I joined it, and I was a happy member of it. It was very powerful. Everyone sacrificed themselves for the sake of the empire and its emperor." Up next, did Rogan really offer to train Elon Musk to fight Putin? You bet. Rogan offered to train Elon Musk for a fight against Putin after the Tesla owner took to social media to call out Putin following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Musk wrote on Twitter, "I hereby challenge Vladimir Putin to single single combat. Stakes are Ukraine. Do you agree to this fight? When speaking with Australian comedian Monty Franklin, Rogan remarked about Musk wanting to fight Putin and said he offered his services to Musk via text and said he'd arrange all of Musk's training. Rogan also told Musk that he thought a fight between him and the Russian president would be epic. Musk's words received a lot of laughs on social media. However, Chechen warlord Ramzan Kadyrov didn't think it was funny and called it the world's richest man. Kadyrov wrote to Musk via Telegram and said, "Elon Musk, a word of advice. Don't measure your strength against that of Putin's. You're in two completely different leagues. Putin would beat the hell out of you, a much weaker opponent. You will return from the Chechen Republic a completely different person, Ilona." That is, Elon. Musk responded to Kadyrov, but first changed his Twitter name to Ilona and said, "Thank you for the offer, but such excellent training would give me too much of an advantage. If he is afraid to fight, I will agree to use only my left hand, and I'm not even left-handed, Ilona." Would you love to see Musk and Putin fight? Who do you think would win? Finally, what is the current state of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict? Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began, a total of 6 Russian generals have been killed. But one top Russian general who's still breathing, Colonel General Sergei Rutskoy, claims that the first stage of Russia's despicable special operation is now complete, and the Russian military is shifting its focus on eastern Ukraine. According to Rutskoy, the main task of the first stage of the operation have been completed. Rutskoy said, "The combat potential of the armed forces of Ukraine has been significantly reduced, allowing us, I emphasize again, to focus the main efforts on achieving the main goal, the liberation of Donbas." Rutskoy's remarks come as Russia's advances have stalled around major Ukrainian cities such as Kiev and Kharkiv. Based on General Rutskoy's comments, it seems like Russia's military is trying to save face after sustaining catastrophic losses that are embarrassing for Russia. We know that Russia has also failed to achieve air superiority in Ukraine, which is a key component to winning any battle. The Russian military claims it is not targeting civilians or residential areas. However, there is overwhelming evidence that clearly proves Russia's military leaders are flat out lying to the world. Scores of innocent Ukrainians have been killed, including the elderly, children, and even expectant mothers. Ukraine's President Zelensky is now asking the Biden administration for 500 javelins and 500 anti-tank guided missiles per day to help Ukraine crush the Russian offensive. That's a wrap for today's video. Thank you for watching, and glory to Ukraine.